Hey bees, I'm Marie from Humblebee and Me, and welcome to April's Q&A video. And so as I mentioned last time, we are now, in my new studio space. So I don't really know how much of a difference you will notice. The lights have obviously moved a bit since, well, everything moved. But I'm really loving my new studio space, and I can't wait to show it to you in a video tour sometime soonish. If you would like to contribute a question to one of these Q&A videos, please leave it in the comments below this video, or I also sort of ask for them every month on Facebook and then on Patreon. And patrons' questions do get precedence, so you'll notice a few of those this month. And yeah, if you are interested in becoming a patron, I will throw a link to my Patreon page in the description box below. But without further ado, let's dive in. So Jamie from Patreon had a couple questions, and so her first one were, what are some of the biggest obstacles and challenges that you face when creating recipes and content to share? And I'd say for me, the biggest sort of balancing act that I feel like I have ongoing is the challenge of trying to keep the recipes accessible, especially in terms of the ingredients that we're using, but also keep things interesting and new and fresh. And so yeah, this is very much an ongoing battle for me, because I find now if I publish something really simple, like a really simple salve, people aren't really that interested in it. But then if I publish something more complex using, a new surfactant or something, I get complaints that the recipes are too complex and too out of reach, and that, a lot of questions about substitutions and that sort of thing, which is completely understandable, because I understand that I have way more ingredients than your average human being does or should. And yeah, I get it. I get that you don't have everything that I have, and you want to make the recipe, but you also want the recipe to be interesting, and I also want the recipe to be interesting, and I also want you to have the ingredients, but I also want to play with some of the ingredients that I have that are new. And so yes, basically that. Jamie's next question was, out of all the recipes that you've made over the years, what do you find yourself using the most often? So lip balm's definitely a big one. It's hard to sort of say a specific recipe, because if you look on my blog, you can see I fairly frequently make lip balm, and then that lip balm sort of goes into the general rotation. I still really love my naked lip balm, my sticky coconut lip balm, and my rose spearmint lip balm. So those are three that I still absolutely adore and make and remake and use all the time, and I get a lot of requests for those as gifts as well. A lot of lotion recipes, and again, you can see as you go through the blog, you can see that I make these things quite frequently, and I'm usually only making 100, maybe 200 grams of them at a time, and so it's not necessarily a specific lotion recipe that I'm remaking, but a lot of time if I really loved something, when I run out of it, I'll sort of do a riff or a variation on it for another version or another post on the blog later on, 4 to 8 months later. And then a lot of recipes for my book Make It Up, which is all about how to make your own makeup. Those I still use all the time whenever I am wearing makeup. So eyeshadow, 100% every time it's doing an eyeshadow look, I'm so excited to pull out all these palettes of eyeshadow that I've made. My foundation is always something that I have made, sort of lip tints and cream blush and lip gloss and all the, the recipes from my book sure get a ton of use for me whenever I'm wearing makeup. I don't really buy any makeup anymore because I don't need to, so yeah. Jamie wanted to know how long I test recipes and formulas before I release them. And this one is kind of a great big it depends. If it's something like a lotion where I'm familiar with the emulsifier and the balance of the recipe is quite similar to other things that I've done, I usually wouldn't be testing it that long before I release a recipe, simply because I kind of already have, in the sense that I've been working with those ingredients in that manner for so many years that I'm fairly confident in how the end product will turn out. So a couple weeks to a month would be fine for checking and making sure that it holds together and feels nice and that sort of thing. For the recipes in my book, or like makeup recipes, those ones end up being tested and developed over a lot longer time and tested a lot more aggressively, because I did have a hard deadline for that project. So something like eyeliner, I would be going to work with 2 different eyeliner recipes, one on each eye, and checking in my rearview mirror and seeing how those were wearing, and doing that for months. And then once I finally had a recipe that I did like, testing that for basically up until the manuscript is due, to make sure that it was still still performing up to snuff. If it's a skincare product that's supposed to have some noticeable benefits over time, skin takes about 28 days to turn over. So yeah, you'd want to be testing that recipe for at least 4 weeks to ensure that sort of what you wanted to happen is happening. So yeah, it depends. It depends on the recipe. It depends on sort of the category of recipe and my familiarity with sort of that base recipe or the ingredients that are in it. Samantha asked, do you believe that Castile soap can clean everything under the sun like Pinterest does? And that's just a giant flat out absolutely not. Castile soap is really neat. It's the traditional definition of it is that it's soap made from nothing but olive oil, but that definition has broadened out, and so now it's more often defined as soap made from just plant-based oils, which is like an extremely wide definition, but that's kind of how Dr. Bronner's has kind of taken on that definition, and that's probably the most widely recognized brand of Castile soap, and so they make theirs out of just vegetable fats and they call it Castile soap, and so that's kind of what's happened to that that definition. Castile soap is still soap. There's nothing magical about Castile soap that other types of cold processed or hot processed soaps can or can't do. It's fats combined with a strong base of potassium or sodium hydroxide, and that saponifies and turns into soap. It has a high pH, and that's just soap has a high pH. When you combine something with sodium hydroxide or potassium hydroxide, your end product is going to have a high pH, and that's just a unchangeable fact about soap. It has a high pH, and it's not the world's greatest degreaser. So for instance, I have never been happy with using soap to wash dishes. Detergents and surfactants are much, much, much better at cleaning dishes. I wouldn't use soap to clean laundry, to make any kind of a laundry soap. I did some neat research on that after somebody on YouTube sort of turned me onto that avenue of inquiry. I'll throw some links in the description box below, quite interesting. But yeah, using soap to wash your clothes isn't going to be as effective as you would want. And then soap has a really high pH, so I don't use it on my face anymore because my face is acidic. Everybody's skin is acidic, so kind of around like 5.5. And so using something as basic as soap on your skin is really hard on it. And so I'll throw some more links on reading about that in the description box below as well. So yeah, I don't believe that Castile soap can do everything. It does have its strengths and weaknesses. It's wonderfully fun to make, but it's definitely not like the wonderful all-purpose cleaner that I think some Pinterest blogs recommend it as. Like, I really can't imagine anybody's washing their dishes with Castile soap and thinking like, wow, what a wonderful experience, because like I've tried it and you just use a ton of soap and your dishes don't get as clean as quickly. And I don't know about you, but I've never been like, gosh, I sure wish washing dishes took 2 to 3 times as long as it already does. It has strengths and weaknesses, and its strengths definitely are not everything. Laura wanted to know if I'm allergic to any skincare products or ingredients. And at this point in time, I am very relieved to be able to say, no, I don't think so. I haven't found anything yet, and I definitely have put a lot of different things on my skin over the years. One ingredient that I do avoid because my skin does react negatively to it is sodium lauryl sulfate. And I don't avoid it completely blanket, because it can be hard. You know, if you're washing your hands out in public, there's a very good chance that sodium lauryl sulfate's in the hand wash, and that's fine. But for me, I don't like it in my toothpaste for the teeth brushing session directly before bed, and that's because I found that I was breaking out on my chin. This may be TMI. And after I switched to an SLS-free toothpaste, which happened to be Sensodyne, it's very difficult to find SLS-free toothpastes, I stopped breaking out on my chin, and this is apparently quite a common thing. You basically, like, you drool a bit in your sleep and there's still some SLS in your mouth and on your teeth from when you brush your teeth, and then it irritates the drool chains, and then you break out. So that's delightful. So yeah, that's an ingredient that I know I don't react to particularly well in terms of sort of like extended like 8-hour contact on my skin. Alright, that's it for this month's Q&A video. If you've got a Q you'd like to see aid, throw it in the comments section below, and don't forget to check that description box for some further reading and for links to my book, because it's awesome. Thanks so much, and I'll see you next time.